Well, good morning once again. Welcome to our live session on LinkedIn about networking on the fly. Literally, we're talking today all about how you can cruise right through the airport, the Uber, the hotel lobby, but maybe make a friend or two along the way. And if you're like me, I actually love having my headphones in at the airport. I don't really want to make a lot of new friends. And I say that kind of in jest because I like to zone out. This is my place of peace. If I'm by myself, it's my chance to sort of be in my own little space. And you may be like that too. I see a lot of you walking through with your earpods in, listening, AirPods in, listening to books, listening to music, whatever you've got going on. But you can still do that. And so that is something to keep in mind. You can still do that. So let's breeze through this and we will get you in and out and on your way, just like you wish your flight would. So we're talking about how we network, what we want to do when we're at the airport and a train station, whatever that might be. First of all, I would like to say, let's start with curiosity, not a pitch. So this is something situational. I've had these scenarios come up all the time about being curious, sharing something situational, sort of like, hey, is this your last stop? Are you going somewhere else? Where's the most interesting place work has taken you lately? You can go along those lines and use that as an opportunity to have some small talk that opens the doors, but don't slam it with your resume. So don't start off when someone says, oh, well, what do you do? And you go into this big, long diatribe about how you're raising all this money for your business, et cetera, et cetera. Don't do that. That's not the place for it. Start with curiosity. Allow them to say, I'm a founder of a company that does this. That's all you need. Let them ask questions and let that be a conversation starter. You don't need to give them that whole pitch up front. Remember, this is not a business meeting. This is someone you're connecting with. So a story I have, I was flying into South Bend, Indiana for some meetings at Notre Dame. And I was standing at the curb waiting for my Uber, which was like 25 minutes away because it's South Bend and they don't have a lot of Ubers. And the lady next to me also waiting she called a taxi. I had an Uber and her taxi showed up and she said, you have a Notre Dame gear. Like, I think you're probably going the same place I am. Would you like to share this taxi with me? Where are you going? And so it turned out we were going like a block from each other. And so we started talking in the taxi and purely it ended up being a great connection. I was there for an angel investing meeting. She was interested in angel investing. I invited her to some of our things we were doing that week on campus. And so it was a great logical connection, but it started with, do you want to share a taxi? And so keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be anything astronomical. Something short and sweet and curious can get you started. Now, I say read the room or the row. Obviously, we've seen people, the headphones in, eyes closed. That's not the people that we want to approach at this moment. It's not that moment, right? But if someone's chatting with the flight attendant or making small talk with the Uber driver, that's a green light. It's an opportunity for you to say, let's say we're in a hotel lobby and we're all waiting to check into our rooms. It might be like, have you stayed at this hotel before? Is there a great restaurant nearby? Something like that. Max on our team loves to call it the UCLA theory. He is a UCLA grad just as of last week. So congratulations to Max, but a UCLA grad. And he calls it the UCLA theory, where when you wear your school's attire, a brand, whatever that might be, it's a conversation starter for people. I like to travel with my Vegas Golden Knights gear on, and that's a conversation starter for people. I have a hat that says Vegas born, and people are always like, oh, were you born in Vegas? Yes, I was. Here's the story. So it gives you a chance to connect. It gives someone a chance to something to connect with you too, right? Finding that commonality is really a key piece of creating these relationships. Now, I'm not saying every time you talk to someone in the airport, you're going to get a book deal out of it, but you also never know who you're going to meet. And I'm going to tell you a story about that in a little bit as well. But if you need that, obviously ways to make connections. Don't make connections if people are headphones in and head down. But, as people get up and start to deplane, that's a great place to have a little conversation because you're kind of stuck there all staring at the front of the plane, waiting for the crowd to move. There's a great little opportunities there to make those nuggets happen. Keep it short and sweet. I can count on my fingers and toes the amount of plane flights I've been on where I've sat the entire way sideways because the person keeps talking and you don't want to be rude and be like, oh, I'm just going to do this. But if that's what you need to do, also do it. This was before I had the cojones to do that. It's a chance for you to say, hey, it's nice to talk with you. Put those in, excuse yourself at the restroom, whatever you need to do for that. But what I will tell you is if that's you, keep it short and sweet. This is not your opportunity for a TED Talk at 30,000 feet. I love this scenario. Think about leaving a voice memo versus a voicemail novel. If you're giving yourself a voice memo, it's usually short and sweet. Do that same thing with the person you're sitting next to because they probably also have a plain plan that they want to execute. So be concise, but leave them curious. It goes back to the beginning of leave them a little curious. Bring something to the table. This is a great one, and we've all experienced the benefit of this. Share a tip with someone. And when you talk to them, say, is this your final destination? Are you ending in Chicago? Oh, great. There's this really great coffee shop around the corner that nobody knows about in this airport. If it's your home airport, give them a little tip. Which bathroom line is the shortest? Which coffee place has the best coffee? If they're staying in Chicago, do you have a great restaurant recommendation to where they're staying? You might say, well, where are you staying in Chicago? Oh, I'm staying on Michigan. Okay, great. There's this really great bakery. You've got to go. They open at 6. The donuts are phenomenal, but it gets really long line at 8. Whatever that is, give them a great restaurant recommendation. Or if they're not staying in Chicago and they're moving on to somewhere else, you might be able to share a quick laugh about a travel fail you might have had. And there's some great opportunities of like, hey, remember the time when if everyone's deplaning, the time I forgot my purse on the airplane and I had to sit in baggage claim with my child who was spinning around on my suitcase for 2 hours till they brought it back down to me? True story. Remember, the connection comes from the conversation and the opportunity to find commonality and be a human, not from your credentials. That's great if you are a CEO of whatever you're doing, but that's not going to be something that's totally relatable to everyone. That's not necessarily a conversation starter. Maybe your company might be, but who you are and your credentials and the badge you wear isn't the thing you want to push. And my last one is follow up fast. So you might say, if you're chatting and you're saying, okay, hey, I've got some restaurant recommendations, and I'll DM them to you through LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever that is. Let's connect real quick while we wait. And then you can send them a note right afterwards that said, hey, great chatting with you between Phoenix and Chicago. I would love to stay in touch. Here's those restaurant recommendations. That's an opportunity for you to connect. And then later on down the line, you can follow up with them if they're in something that you might want to be, you're intrigued by, something you want to be involved in, something that you just want to know more about. We talk all about at Cultivate how to continue to make those connections and how to follow up with people like that. So let's say you're dropping into someone's Instagram that you met on the plane and you're really intrigued because they're a professional photographer and that's something you want to do. There's an opportunity the week later when you come back to say, hey, I hope you really had a great time in Chicago. Did you love the donut shop that I sent you to? I would love to hear more about what you're doing as a photographer. I'm really interested in that line of work. I'm really interested in photography, period. I love to buy photography. I don't care what it is. Give them a little nugget. And that way you can follow up and say, hey, can we have a virtual coffee? There is nothing wrong and should be nothing scary. Be confident in the fact that you can do this and it happens all the time, that you can ask people for that connection time, especially if there's you have already a face-to-face conversation with each other. So that's something to think about. When I was flying to a wedding recently, there was this woman next to me, and through the whole long flight, it was 8.5 hours. She was nice. She dropped her suitcase. I helped her pick it up, put it in the overhead bin. I smiled at her when she did something. Like it was not, there was a lot of body language type stuff. But when we got we're getting ready to deplane, she said, oh, is Florence your final destination? And I said, it is. We're here for a wedding. And I said, what about you? And she said, I'm going to Warsaw for work. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. What are you doing for work in Warsaw? And she said, oh, I'm a broadcaster for extreme sports. And for those of you who know, I also have a sports company. And so I was like, oh, well, this is interesting. I work in sports. So I would love to learn a little bit more about what you do because I've never heard of, I think it was extreme airboat racing. I've never heard of that really. It sounds amazing. It sounds really interesting. Can we connect? I'd love to learn more because once again, I'm being curious, right? I'm not coming at her with here's all the things I do. And she didn't come in with here's all the things I do. It was an opportunity to connect us to humans who happen to have some mutual curiosities. So use that as an opportunity to follow up and follow up fast. Now, I'm going to say this as a woman who has traveled a lot by myself. Safety first. Very important, obviously. All the things we talked about. Make sure, depending on who you're talking to, that you don't give away too much information. You're not saying, I'm here for a solo trip by myself and staying at this hotel. That's not something we should probably be doing. And so really, when you keep that in mind, know your scenario, know your situation, be smart about it. The restaurant recommendations, great, but you don't have to announce where you're going to be if you're going to be by yourself. None of that stuff is important. If you are traveling by yourself, I've been known to make up stories just so it doesn't sound like I'm traveling by myself. You can always follow up when you get home. I know I talked about follow up fast, but you don't have to. You can follow up next week if you need to, and that helps you be more comfortable. It's still going to be a conversation that would be relevant a couple days later, so that you can do that when you get home. And safety first is so important. I hope you loved our quick chat today about networking on the fly. If you would like to gather our 45 conversation starters guaranteed to create a connection, these are phenomenal. These are a list that I personally have gone through every single one of them and used every single one of them, and I do all the time. I have people who save these on their phone so they're ready to rock when they walk into a meeting or into, once again, a scenario that might work on an airplane to create conversation with those around them. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and scan that QR code and would be happy to send that your way. Of course, if you need anything else, we're at the networkofchampions.com. And if you, my email's right there, hello at the networkofchampions.com. Have a great weekend. Happy summer travel.